During World War II, German Panzers revolutionized modern warfare. These imposing steel machines, designed by engineers like Ferdinand Porsche and supported by companies such as Mercedes-Benz, became the core of the Third Reich's military power. Among these giants were prototypes like the Maus, a 188-ton Colossus designed by Ferdinand Porsche, and the Ferdinand Elephant, a tank destroyer renowned for its destructive capabilities on the Eastern Front. Meanwhile, the Luftwaffe complemented these land-based advances with initial air superiority, driven by technological innovations from companies like BMW, which produced engines such as the BMW 801 for legendary aircraft like the Focke-Wulf FW-190. This combination of armored and aerial power was pivotal to the Blitzkrieg campaigns, enabling Germany to dominate much of Europe during the early years of the war. Panzers of the Third Reich, the steel giants of the Reich. In most respects, Allied forces had weaponry comparable to that of the Germans. However, the Third Reich demonstrated clear superiority in the design and production of tanks. German tank production was notably superior in both quality and quantity, surpassing that of any other nation. Even before the outbreak of the war, Germany had begun building thousands of Panzer tanks, primarily Models 1 and 2, with collaboration from companies like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Porsche. During the war, more advanced models were developed and mass-produced, reaching a total of 50,000 tanks manufactured by Nazi Germany. Most of these tanks were the powerful Panzers 3 and 4, which were renowned for their exceptional durability and range. In contrast to Britain, which produced a variety of medium-quality tank designs, German Panzers focused on three core types: Panzer IV, 5, and 6, each meticulously designed for a specific purpose and excellently suited to its role. Fuel efficiency and survival. Many German tanks ran on diesel fuel, which provided crews with a better chance of survival in the event of combat damage compared to the American Sherman tanks, which used gasoline engines. Shermans were more prone to catching fire, often resulting in the deaths of their entire crews. Collaboration among companies like Mercedes-Benz, which supplied engines, BMW, which provided components, and Porsche, which designed and produced tanks, was pivotal to the success of German tank production during World War II. The Panzer IV, backbone of the German army. The Panzer IV was the most widely used German tank during the war and played a crucial role in the defense of Normandy. With over 8,000 units produced, it became one of the most prolific models of the war. Designed in 1937, early versions were equipped with short-barreled 75mm guns, ideal for infantry support. Combat experience, particularly on the Russian front, highlighted the need for greater speed and armor penetration capability. As a result, a long-barreled gun was integrated, leading to the Mark IV-G, the third major variant, which appeared in 1943. Weighing 25.5 tons, the Panzer IV was powered by a 300-horsepower Maybach engine, reaching a top speed of 25 miles per hour. Its five-man crew was protected by armor ranging from 30 to 80 millimeters and carried a standard load of 87 rounds for its main gun. The Panzer V, a masterpiece of tank design. The Panzer V, often regarded as one of the most impressive tanks in history, incorporated lessons the Germans had learned during the war. Its sloped armor was designed to deflect incoming shells from any angle. With armor ranging from 40 to 80 millimeters and a high-velocity 75mm gun, the Mark V was a formidable opponent on any front. Despite its considerable weight of 50 tons, nearly double that of the Mark IV, the Panzer V maintained a reasonable speed of 25 miles per hour and an outstanding range of 125 miles on roads. These tanks were deployed just in time for the Battle of Kursk in Russia during the summer of 1943, although they initially suffered mechanical issues. Improvements to their suspension and transmission systems followed, and approximately 5,000 Panzer Vs were produced in total. The Panzer VI, the fearsome Tiger. The Panzer VI, also known as the Tiger, was Germany's most advanced tank. Making its debut in 1942, this 62-ton behemoth was armed with an 88mm gun, a weapon already feared and respected by the Allies. The gun was remarkably accurate, reportedly able to place 5 shells within an 18-inch radius at a range of 1,200 yards. The Tiger featured armor between 62 and 102 millimeters thick, roughly 2.5 to 4 inches, rendering it nearly impervious to conventional anti-tank weapons. Sharing the same basic engine as the Mark V, it could reach a respectable road speed of 25 miles per hour, though it was slower on rough terrain. Despite its advantages, the Tiger's production was prohibitively expensive, limiting output to just 1,340 units. Opel Blitz, the all-terrain truck that revolutionized Wehrmacht logistics. The German designer Fritz Heinrich was responsible for bringing the Opel Blitz to life, a vehicle that transformed military logistics with its innovative features. Equipped with an inline 6-cylinder engine producing 75 horsepower and a 4-speed manual transmission, the Opel Blitz also boasted hydraulic brakes and an advanced lighting system. These elements made it a safe, reliable, and highly effective vehicle, gaining the trust of German forces. Its lightweight yet robust design allowed it to withstand the rigors of combat, enabling the Germans to maintain operational capacity even in hostile environments. German military strategist Erich von Manstein played a pivotal role in shaping the Wehrmacht's logistical focus, emphasizing speed and mobility. His vision directly influenced the design of vehicles like the Opel Blitz, which allowed the German army to adapt to the ever-changing conditions of war. Versatility on the battlefield. The Opel Blitz proved its flexibility by performing a variety of roles, from transporting ammunition and fuel to moving troops and supplies. Its sturdy construction and powerful engine made it an essential tool on the battlefield, even taking on specialized roles such as mobile workshops and radio communication vehicles. The German army also employed a pragmatic strategy of reusing captured enemy vehicles, further optimizing resources and ensuring their forces could continue fighting despite mounting logistical challenges. Logistical strains and the turning tide. As the war dragged on, however, logistical strains began to emerge. The pressures of the Eastern Front and relentless Allied bombing campaigns severely disrupted supply lines, making it increasingly difficult for Germany to sustain its war effort. Fuel shortages and a lack of spare parts dealt a devastating blow to the Wehrmacht as it struggled to keep its vehicles operational. Despite impressive engineering and logistical efforts, the scale of the challenges proved insurmountable. The intensifying Soviet offensive and the unrelenting Allied bombing campaigns eventually pushed the Wehrmacht to the brink of collapse. By the war's end, German supply networks were in tatters, and their ability to sustain combat operations was critically weakened. Graf Spee, the warship that was sunk. On December 17, 1939, during World War II, a grave incident occurred in the waters of the Rio de la Plata, near Buenos Aires and Montevideo. A loud explosion echoed across the region, followed by a plume of smoke rising from the center of the estuary. Moments later, the scene changed entirely. The German warship Admiral Graf Spee had vanished beneath the estuary's waters, intentionally scuttled to prevent Allied experts from seizing its innovative technology. 3 days later, at the Hotel de Inmigrantes in Buenos Aires, its captain, Hans Langsdorf, carefully laid a German flag on his bed, lay atop it, and ended his life using the Mauser pistol of one of his subordinates. The Graf Spee, a revolutionary warship captain Hans Langsdorf, who had joined the German Naval Academy in 1912 against his parents' wishes, was appointed to command the Graf Spee in 1936. With a long naval career, Langsdorf had distinguished himself as a war hero during World War I, but nothing in his extensive experience could have prepared him for the advanced technology aboard the Graf Spee. This was no ordinary ship. It seemed like something from the pages of science fiction, the most sophisticated vessel in the world at that time. This achievement was remarkable given the constraints imposed by the victors of World War I fewer than 2 decades earlier. Hitler's top engineers were tasked with designing the most lethal warship imaginable. The result was a new class of destroyer, so powerful and compact it seemed almost too good to be true. They called the prototype a Taschenkreuzer, or pocket battleship, due to its reduced size. Though unimpressive from a distance, German pocket battleships were exceptionally fast and deadly, reaching speeds of nearly 30 knots, approximately 50 kilometers per hour, thanks to their 54,000 horsepower diesel engines. The ships were equipped with a catapult enabling a Heinkel He 60 seaplane to launch directly from the deck. The Graf Spee was also the first German warship fitted with radio detection systems, a technology invented only a year earlier by British scientists. The Nazis were quick to adopt and replicate it for their own use. Langsdorf, a loyal captain. Although not a supporter of Nazism, Langsdorf remained fiercely loyal to his country and followed his superiors' orders without question. When Germany declared war on Britain and France, the Graf Spee was already at sea, patrolling the Indian Ocean. From that moment, whenever a British merchant ship was sighted, Langsdorf ordered it sunk but ensured no crew members were harmed. Enemy crews were safely transported to the nearest port. After sinking several enemy ships, the Graf Spee resupplied in the Canary Islands before sailing into the South Atlantic. On December 13th, the Graf Spee detected a group of 3 British destroyers several miles east of Montevideo. Identified as the Exeter, Ajax, and Achilles, the British ships attacked first but missed their target. The Graf Spee retaliated with precise salvos, inflicting significant damage on the Exeter, which, after taking additional hits, was forced to withdraw for repairs. Realizing that the Graf Spee had superior firepower but was alone, the Ajax and Achilles attempted to flank it. However, an 8-inch shell from the Achilles penetrated 2 decks of the Graf Spee, destroying its fuel processing unit and limiting its operational range. Despite this, the Graf Spee put up a fierce fight, damaging both the Ajax and the Achilles. A hero's final decision. Langsdorf ordered the Graf Spee to head for Buenos Aires, but Argentine authorities denied the crew asylum. The ship crossed the Rio de la Plata to Montevideo, where Langsdorf was informed that they could stay only for 48 hours. This was insufficient time to resupply and repair the ship's hull and fuel systems. Left with no viable options, Langsdorf made the only choice a respected naval officer could. He sailed the Graf Spee to the middle of the river, placed explosive charges aboard, and evacuated his crew. The ship was blown to pieces, ensuring its advanced technology would not fall into Allied hands. Nazi submarine technology, the power of the Kriegsmarine. Although remarkable, the Graf Spee was just one of the many innovations that enabled Germany to dominate the seas, at least during the early stages of World War II, while submarines were not a novelty. They had existed since the early 1900s. It was during World War II that they evolved into true machines of destruction. Between 1939 and 1945, over 1,200 submarines were built, ranging from small vessels to the stealthy and advanced U-boats Mark 21. No ocean in the world was safe for Allied ships during this time. Between September and December of 1939, German U-boats sank 221 ships while losing only 9 of their own. This extraordinary feat was achieved under the leadership of Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, one of the war's most skilled strategists, and a veteran submarine commander from World War I. Dönitz became famous for his Wolfpack strategy, which involved multiple U-boats coordinating simultaneous attacks on a single target. This method was highly effective but required a large number of submarines in service. The combination of Dönitz's tactical brilliance and numerous technological advancements made German U-boats deadly predators across the globe. Technological advancements. One of the key factors behind the success of German U-boats was their advanced technology. Improvements in hull construction and the use of high-strength materials allowed German submarines to reach greater depths, enhancing their ability to evade detection by enemy ships. Additionally, German submarines were equipped with advanced detection systems that far surpassed those of their opponents. They were also armed with cutting-edge weapons, such as the G7E electric torpedo, which was not only more economical than conventional torpedoes, but also left no visible bubble trail, giving U-boats a significant advantage in daylight attacks. The capture of U-570. On August 27, 1941, the 269th Squadron of the Royal Air Force Coastal Command achieved an unprecedented feat that was not repeated throughout the war: the capture of a German submarine without the assistance of surface ships. The submarine U-570 was quickly transported to Britain for a detailed examination. Experts who analyzed the U-570 were astonished, concluding that every component of the submarine was superior to those of the British Royal Navy. This included advanced attack periscopes and a night vision system capable of functioning in total darkness. The British immediately began incorporating German technology into their own submarines, soon making them far more formidable. Countering the wolf pack strategy, despite the U-boat's devastating effectiveness, the Allies eventually developed effective countermeasures against Dönitz's wolf pack strategy. They created hunter-killer groups composed of fast anti-submarine escorts and aircraft carriers. Naval operations shifted focus from merely protecting convoys to actively hunting and destroying U-boats wherever they operated. In response, Dönitz deployed his U-boats near the Azores, where land-based aircraft still had difficulty reaching. From this region, he aimed to disrupt convoy routes between Gibraltar and Britain. Dönitz also attempted to concentrate his forces in a strategic arc spanning West Africa, South America, and the Caribbean. However, most of the 39 U-boats deployed in these operations were intercepted and destroyed, marking the tragic decline of one of history's greatest submarine fleets. The Biber, Germany's miniature submarine. In a last-ditch effort to counter the Allied invasion of Europe, the German Navy developed a type of miniature submarine known as the Biber, the German word for beaver. Designed as a one-man vessel, the Biber was intended to attack enemy ships along the coast. It was equipped with 2 externally mounted torpedoes or 21-inch, 53-centimeter mines. However, the Bibers were hastily developed toward the end of the war, resulting in basic technical flaws. Combined with inadequate operator training, this meant that the Bibers never posed a serious threat to Allied shipping, despite 324 units being delivered. One of the pilots assigned to operate a Biber was Joachim Langsdorf, the son of Captain Hans Langsdorf, the commander of the Graf Spee. German aircraft, Messerschmitt, Heinkel, and BMW in the creation of the Me-262. The German aerospace industry experienced significant growth during the 1920s, fueled by investments in research and the development of new designs and technologies. Companies like Messerschmitt, Heinkel, and BMW emerged as leaders in producing high-quality aircraft and engines. By 1935, the Luftwaffe, established that same year, became one of the most advanced air forces in the world, thanks to investments in cutting-edge aviation technology and the production of state-of-the-art aircraft and engines. The collaboration between industry and government was crucial for developing innovative projects and manufacturing highly effective planes and engines. One standout project reviewed by the Minister of Science was a patent submitted by a young physicist named Hans von Ohain. In 1935, at just 23 years old, von Ohain successfully designed a turbojet engine adaptable for aircraft. He was provided with a team of specialists and a substantial budget to design and test the world's first jet-powered aircraft, the Heinkel He-178. The He-178 proved its effectiveness during the invasion of Poland later that same year, leading von Ohain's team to begin developing more advanced jet fighter designs. These plans, designated Project 1065, were classified as highly confidential. The Ministry of Aviation requested a jet aircraft capable of flying for at least an hour and reaching speeds of 850 kilometers per hour, approximately 530 miles per hour. Designing the Me-262 initial plans for the Me-262 were drawn up in early 1939, but the original design differed significantly from the version that eventually entered service. Repeated changes to the design and ongoing issues with jet engines caused significant delays in building the first prototype. Initially, the Me-262 was designed with straight wings, but problems arose when the engines turned out to be heavier than anticipated. While waiting for the final engines, Messerschmitt relocated the engines from the wing roots to pods under the wings, making them easier to replace if necessary. This modification proved to be an excellent design choice, but unfortunately came too late in the war to make a decisive difference. The Me-262, a game-changing fighter experts, agree that the Messerschmitt Me-262 was, without question, the most remarkable fighter aircraft of World War II, noted for its incredible firepower and ability to fly at speeds of up to 200 kilometers per hour, 120 miles per hour, faster than the American P-51 Mustang. Its sleek, aerodynamic design and exceptional maneuverability made it a formidable opponent. However, Its introduction into combat came too late in the war to have a significant impact. Production of the Me-262 was plagued by delays, largely because the Junkers Jumo 004 jet engines powering it did not enter mass production until the spring of 1944. The Ministry of Aviation failed to prioritize the development of reliable jet engines until it was too late. As a result, of the more than 1,400 Me-262s produced by Germany, only about 300 saw combat. Despite this, the Me-262 was the only jet fighter to participate in air-to-air combat during the war, striking fear into Allied fighters and bombers alike. Propeller-driven aircraft could not catch the jets, and slow-moving bombers were easy prey for the Me-262's Mk-108 cannon. Missed opportunities. The jet engines that could have changed the course of the war for Germany were never produced in sufficient numbers. Allied intelligence estimated that there were likely never more than 36 Me-262s airborne at the same time. This was an insignificant number compared to the thousands of Allied bombers and fighters flying over the ruins of Germany in 1945. By then, Allied nations had developed superior aircraft, such as the Spitfire Nymphner, the P-47D, and by 1944, the Tempest, the Spitfire 14, and the P-51 Mustang, giving them a decisive advantage in the skies. Horten Ho 229, the invisible fighter of World War II. In the final months of World War II, Nazi Germany began testing an experimental fighter aircraft with a revolutionary design, resembling something out of a science fiction story. The Horten Ho 229 not only had a futuristic appearance, but was also equipped with the most advanced technology available at the time. One of its most striking features was the lack of a vertical stabilizer on the tail, which set it apart from all other aircraft of the era. By eliminating the tail, which typically helps maintain stability and prevents unwanted yawing, the aircraft became harder to control. However, this same feature also made it nearly invisible to radar. Its innovative design resembled more of a flying saucer than a conventional fighter plane, earning it the nickname Flying Wing. This design reduced the size of the aircraft while creating a smoother and more aerodynamic shape that was harder for radar to detect. The Horten Ho 229 was so advanced for its time that its secrets remain incompletely understood even today. Experts at NASA are still studying a captured prototype to uncover how its creators overcame the significant aerodynamic challenges that should have made such an aircraft unviable. The secret behind the Horten Ho 229. The key to the Ho 229's success lay in its bell-shaped wing, which resolved the yaw issues caused by the absence of a tail. This innovative design not only reduced drag but also improved the aircraft's stability and minimized fuel consumption, enabling it to achieve higher speeds. The Ho 229 was the brainchild of two brothers, Walter and Reimar Horten, who were considered among the best aeronautical engineers of their time, not only in Germany but worldwide. By the late 1940s, the Project Sign team, a US Air Force investigation into unidentified flying objects, speculated that many sightings might have been secret Soviet aircraft inspired by the Horten brothers' designs. The Horten brothers and their beginnings. The Horten brothers began designing aircraft in the early 1930s, at a time when Germany was officially prohibited from maintaining an air force due to the restrictions of the Treaty of Versailles. However, military pilots and engineers continued to meet in secret at sports flying clubs, using them as a way to circumvent the restrictions. It was in these clubs that the Hortens met Alexander Lippisch, a pioneer in delta-wing aircraft designs. Inspired by Lippisch, the Hortens refined their flying wing approach, achieving increasingly successful results. Their work culminated in the Horten Ho 4 glider, where the pilot flew in a prone position inside the aircraft. This design eliminated the protruding cockpit, thereby reducing aerodynamic drag. By the time the Ho 4 glider was being tested, Walter Horten had already gained combat experience as a Luftwaffe pilot during the Battle of Britain in 1940. Although the battle was won by the British, this experience was a turning point for Walter, who realized that Germany needed a new approach to fighter aircraft design. Once back on the ground, he began discussing with his brother the feasibility of designing an entirely wing-shaped aircraft. The 3x1000 project, meanwhile, Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, had launched a project called 3x1000, which aimed to develop aircraft capable of carrying a 1,000-kilogram bomb, flying a distance of 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers, at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour, 625 miles per hour. This initiative motivated the Horten brothers to begin work on what would eventually become the Ho 229 prototypes. The first prototype was an unpowered glider, built to test the aerodynamic design. The second prototype was fitted with jet engines and successfully completed its maiden flight on February 2, 1945. However, during another test flight a few weeks later, the aircraft suffered an engine failure and crashed, killing its test pilot. Despite the tragedy, the aircraft's ability to take off, fly, and land effectively validated its design and functionality. Sturmgewehr 44, Waffen der Zerstörung. Nazi researchers developed a wide range of weapons, from large-caliber cannons and rockets to portable firearms. However, one of the most influential and revolutionary combat systems created during World War II was the Sturmgewehr 44, abbreviated as STG-44. Designed as a bridge between a rifle and a machine gun, it combined portability with lightweight construction, making it the first assault rifle in history. It featured a long-range cartridge and a more compact design compared to a standard battle rifle, along with a higher rate of fire. Initially, the Wehrmacht faced a significant number of semi-automatic weapons during the 1941 invasion of the Soviet Union. A growing number of Tokarev SVT-38 and SVT-40 semi-automatic rifles were used by the Red Army, and some Soviet infantry units were fully equipped with PPS-41 submachine guns. The Soviet success lay in the vast number of factories working around the clock to supply ammunition to frontline troops. Germany sought to match this production rate by expanding its factories in Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, and France. On the Russian front, after enduring heavy bombardments from soldiers armed with Tokarevs, German commanders re-evaluated their requirements for lightweight weaponry. The German army had attempted to introduce semi-automatic weapons like the Gewehr 41, but these proved unreliable in service, and production numbers fell short of demand. Various attempts were made to field light machine guns or automatic rifles, but the heavy recoil of the Mauser rifles was too difficult to control in automatic fire. By modifying the ammunition and the feeding mechanism in the chamber, the barrel's recoil was reduced. This allowed the STG-44 to deliver effective automatic fire within actual combat ranges, a feature widely considered the most significant advancement in light weaponry since the invention of smokeless gunpowder. Challenges on the Eastern Front. However, the rate of fire was not the only challenge German troops faced in Russia. The harsh winter of 1941 posed another significant obstacle, as the ignition mechanism in German flamethrowers failed to function in freezing conditions. This prompted innovation, and later versions of the weapon replaced the hydrogen torch with a cartridge-based system that proved more effective in cold climates. The standard flamethrower used by the German army during World War II was the Flammenwerfer 41, also known as FMW 41. Production of this model began in 1941, serving as an improved version of its predecessor, the FMW 35, which was too heavy and difficult to carry over long periods. The FMW 41 was significantly lighter, weighing a total of 18 kilograms. Its intended purpose was to clear enemy trenches and fortified buildings. Between 1942 and April of 1945, more than 64,000 units of the Flammenwerfer 41 were produced, although production ceased immediately after the war. Similar to other designs of the era, the FMW 41 used a hydrogen torch to ignite a mixture of tar and gasoline, which was fired from a handheld torch connected to a tank. The gasoline and propellant were carried in separate tanks on the operator's back, each capable of holding up to 11.8 liters of a tar and gasoline mixture known as Flammol 19. This model was more reliable and easier to operate than its predecessor, boasting an extended range of 32 meters, 105 feet. MG-44, a battlefield icon. Another weapon that stood out for its effectiveness on the battlefield was the MG-42, a German machine gun that became one of the most iconic and feared weapons of the war. Known for its high rate of fire and ability to sustain continuous fire for long periods, the MG-42 earned a reputation as one of the most effective machine guns of the conflict. Scientific advances and dark Nazi connections, from IG Farben to archaeological exploration. What stood out about the FMW-41 flamethrower was not necessarily its design or engineering, but the composition of its fuel mixture, developed by the infamous company IG Farben. This same company mass-produced the chemicals used in the gas chambers of Auschwitz and other extermination camps. Scientists from IG Farben made essential contributions to various fields of chemistry and pharmaceuticals. Otto Bayer discovered polyaddition for polyurethane synthesis in 1937, and 3 of the company's scientists received the Nobel Prize. Karl Bosch and Friedrich Bergius in 1947-31 for their contributions to the invention and development of high-pressure chemical methods, and Gerhard Domach in 1939 for discovering the antibacterial effects of Prontosil. IG Farben also developed a patent still in use worldwide today. They discovered a method for manufacturing synthetic rubber, which was crucial during the war when access to rubber plantations in Asia and the Americas became difficult. The patent was later sold to the American company Standard Oil, allowing the United States to quickly establish synthetic rubber production to meet its needs, especially in the war effort against Japan. Scientific contributions in the 1930s and 1940s, daily life saw significant improvements thanks to the scientific advances made in Germany during the 1930s and 1940s. In 1926, Hans Busch invented the first electromagnetic lens, which allowed Ernst Ruska and Max Knoll, a physicist and an electrical engineer at the University of Berlin, to create the first electron microscope in 1931. This prototype achieved a magnification of 400 times, demonstrating the possibilities of electron microscopy. In 1933, Ruska further improved the original model, developing an electron microscope capable of producing higher resolution images than those obtained with optical microscopes. This revolutionized microbiology, enabling significant advancements in disease control. Later, in 1937, Manfred von Ardenne developed the first scanning electron microscope. Nazi archaeological projects. The Nazis were also involved in academic projects, such as financing major archaeological excavations at the Greek site of Olympia, though with political motivations. For Hitler and members of the Nazi Party, the excavations at Olympia, conducted before and after the 1936 Olympic Games, aimed to historically appropriate the renowned ancient site and celebrate the supposed relationship between Hellenic and Germanic cultures. According to Nazi ideology, the Greeks were descendants of the ancient Aryans, just like the Germans. Hitler even tasked the Reich's architect, Albert Speer, with constructing a massive stadium in Nuremberg with a capacity of 400,000 people to host the Olympic Games perpetually every 4 years. However, beyond Hitler's political ambitions, it is a fact that the site of Olympia had been neglected for a long period. Funding provided by the German Archaeological Institute allowed for the first exhaustive and scientifically rigorous excavation of the site, under the supervision of Emil Kunze and Hans Schleif. These excavations ceased in 1940, shortly before the German invasion of Greece devastated most of the country's archaeological sites. Enigma, the Third Reich's code that challenged the Allies. The Enigma machine was an electromechanical cipher device used by the German High Command during World War II. Its design was based on the work of Arthur Scherbius, who created a commercial encryption machine that used a series of rotors to substitute one letter for another. Scherbius partnered with Willy Korn, owner of the company Enigma Schiffiermaschinen AG, to enhance the design and add interchangeable rotors. By 1923, the company had developed a nearly unbreakable machine, which was sold to protect commercial secrets. However, the Enigma machine soon caught the attention of the German military, which adopted it as its official encryption method. The German Navy was the first branch to use the Enigma, followed by the Army and the Air Force. By 1926, Enigma Schiffiermaschinen AG was under state control, and the machine was withdrawn from the commercial market. The German Navy further enhanced the Enigma by adding a fourth rotor, making it even more secure. This version became known as the Eins, or Wehrmacht Enigma, Entering service in 1930, the complexity of the Enigma code. The Enigma machine could scramble messages into 200 quintillion possible combinations, and with the correct key, these scrambled messages could be decoded. However, the Achilles heel of the Enigma system was the commercial machines sold before the war. Although these machines were not identical to the military versions, British cryptologists were able to decipher some messages originating from commercial models. A group of Polish mathematicians, led by Marian Rejewski, successfully broke the Enigma code in 1939. The British government kept this achievement secret until 1986, giving the impression that the British had solely cracked the code. In reality, the Poles had been working to decode Enigma since 1928, using 4 listening stations located in Warsaw, Stargard, Poznan, and Krzesławice. The Poles also developed a machine called the cryptologic bomb, which enabled them to detect patterns in intercepted messages. This device used several sets of punched paper with holes to determine how the rotors were aligned to create encryption keys. Polish collaboration and British success. In early July 1939, the Polish General Staff began sharing Enigma's secrets with Allied intelligence services. Thanks to Poland's collaboration, the British were able to intercept and read German messages starting in August 1939. The Enigma key was determined by the internal structure of the rotors and their initial positions. The Army's Enigma models used 9 different types of rotors, while the Navy's models used 4. To break the Enigma code, the British relied on massive calculating machines known as Colossus, which are considered precursors to modern electronic computers. The British counterintelligence team included Alan Turing, one of the most renowned mathematicians of the 20th century and a founding figure in theoretical computing. The Colossus machines became operational in 1943, a year widely regarded as the birth of computer science. German railway artillery, the evolution. In contrast to synthetic materials and polymers, railway guns had highly specialized applications and capabilities. For instance, their mobility was restricted to areas where pre-existing rail tracks were available. This geographical limitation was the primary reason for their relatively low production numbers. The largest railway gun ever constructed by the Germans was named Schwerer Gustav, and it is believed that a second gun, nicknamed Dora, was also built, though no concrete evidence confirms its existence. Speculation suggests that Dora may have been used during the siege of Stalingrad in 1942. Schwerer Gustav was, and remains, the largest artillery piece ever deployed in combat. This colossal military weapon measured nearly 50 meters in length and 7 meters in width, with the barrel alone extending 32.5 meters. It fired massive shells with a caliber of 80 centimeters, capable of reaching a range of 47 kilometers. The assembly of this giant cannon required 250 people and 3 days of work. Typically, 2 anti-aircraft defense battalions were stationed nearby to protect it from enemy air attacks. While the French were constructing the Maginot Line in 1934, the German Army's High Command commissioned the Krupp Company to design a gun capable of penetrating the forts of the Maginot Line. The gun's shells needed to be heavy enough to pierce 7 meters of reinforced concrete or a full meter of steel plating from beyond the reach of French artillery. Due to its immense size and weight, this military weapon could not operate on conventional rail tracks and instead required a special set of twin tracks for transportation to the French border. Special locomotives and cranes were also brought in to position the cannon effectively on the battlefield. However, construction of the Schwerer Gustav did not begin until mid-1937, when Hitler personally approved the project. Technical challenges in manufacturing steel components of such immense dimensions made it clear that completing the first cannon would take several years. A second cannon, Dora, was commissioned, but its whereabouts remain unknown. Deployment and combat use. By the time Krupp finished building the Schwerer Gustav, France had already fallen under the control of the Third Reich. However, the cannon proved useful on the Eastern Front, and in March of 1942, it was assembled and transported along twin rail tracks to Crimea. The train carrying the Schwerer Gustav consisted of 25 carriages, making the entire train 1 6/10 kilometers, or approximately 1 mile long, all for transporting a single cannon to the front lines. The Schwerer Gustav saw combat for the first time during the siege of Sevastopol in June of 1942. By the end of the siege on July 4th, the city of Sevastopol lay in ruins with 30,000 tons of artillery munitions fired in total. The Gustav alone had fired 47 rounds, wearing out its original barrel, which was then replaced while the damaged barrel was sent back to Krupp for repairs. After the siege, the cannon was disassembled and relocated to the northern sector of the Eastern Front, where an attack on Leningrad was planned. The gun was positioned approximately 30 kilometers, or 18 miles, from the city, but the attack was cancelled before it could fire. During the winter of 1942-43, the German army abandoned the cannon near Leningrad. On April 14, 1945, a day before the arrival of American troops, the Schwerer Gustav was destroyed to prevent its capture. The Karl-Gerät. Another significant railway gun was the Karl-Gerät, which was transported via rail in a manner similar to the Gustav and Dora, albeit over shorter distances. Given its considerably lighter weight compared to the Schwerer Gustav and Dora, the Karl-Gerät could be disassembled and reassembled by a smaller crew in just one day. Despite its reduced size, it packed an equally destructive punch with shells 60 centimeters in diameter, weighing 2 tons each. What set the Karl-Gerät apart from other railway guns was its self-propelled design, eliminating the need for a locomotive to move it. A total of 7 guns were produced, 6 of which participated in military actions between 1941 and 1945. The Karl-Gerät was used in attacks on Soviet fortifications at Brest-Litovsk and Sevastopol, in the bombardment of Polish resistance fighters during the Warsaw Uprising, in the Battle of the Ardennes, and in the attempt to destroy the Ludendorff Bridge during the Battle of Remagen. The deadly secret of the atomic bomb. A crucial factor that contributed to the Allies' victory was the technological advancement in developing the atomic bomb, achieved before the Germans. This success was partly related to the expulsion of Jewish scientists from Germany, many of whom were leading experts in both theoretical and practical physics. Additionally, the United States carried out a secret operation to transfer German and Austrian engineers, scientists, and technicians to the United States after the war ended. This initiative was driven by a significant demand for specialized expertise, as German scientists were leaders in most academic fields. A key figure in atomic research was Otto Hahn, a German chemist and pioneer in the fields of radioactivity and radiochemistry, known as the father of nuclear fission. Hahn and his assistant, Lise Meitner, discovered radioactive isotopes of radium, thorium, protactinium, and uranium in their laboratory in Magdeburg. In 1938, Hahn, along with Meitner and Fritz Strassmann, discovered nuclear fission, although only Hahn received the 1944 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Nuclear fission laid the groundwork for nuclear reactors and, as Nazi leaders soon realized, nuclear weapons. Hahn also suggested that uranium was the ideal material for constructing both nuclear reactors and bombs. Uranium, a rare mineral, was available in mines located in Czechoslovakia, which was under Nazi occupation at the time. Hitler ordered the country's most prominent scientists, including Hahn, Werner Heisenberg, Hans Geiger, Carl Friedrich, and others, to be contacted and tasked with developing nuclear technology. The Americans grew deeply concerned upon learning about the meeting of elite German scientists, fearing that they were close to developing a nuclear weapon. In response, the United States launched Operation Paperclip, aiming to recruit some of Germany's most distinguished physicists and bring them to American soil to work on the Manhattan Project under the leadership of J. Robert Oppenheimer. An armed agent was even sent to a lecture given by Werner Heisenberg in Zurich in 1943, with orders to listen closely to the speech and eliminate Heisenberg if he indicated that the Germans were nearing completion of the weapon. However, the order was not carried out. Unlike the Manhattan Project, the German nuclear program did not focus on a single goal, but instead aimed to provide funding and support for talented scientists to independently and autonomously pursue their research. Significant progress was made, such as developing isotope separation methods to extract only the molecules of a mineral possessing radioactive properties. Additionally, important work was done on moderators, materials that absorbed the additional neutrons expelled by radioactive substances, thereby preventing a nuclear chain reaction. German scientists were the first to recognize the moderating properties of heavy water, But unfortunately, they failed to consider graphite as an effective moderator. This was likely due to the contamination of the graphite samples used by Walter Botha in his experiments, which contained boron. As the Soviets and Americans later discovered, graphite is one of the best moderators available and is widely abundant on Earth. A missed opportunity and a nuclear incident physics in Nazi Germany failed to achieve artificial criticality, an essential prerequisite for developing a nuclear reactor and a nuclear bomb. They came very close, but an unfortunate and relatively unknown incident prevented them from reaching this milestone. The Leipzig experiment accident was, in fact, the first recorded nuclear accident in history. It occurred on June 23, 1942, in a laboratory belonging to the Physics Institute at the University of Leipzig. Scientists were working on a uranium machine, an early form of a research reactor, when a sudden and violent steam explosion and fire erupted in the laboratory. Fortunately, there were no fatalities, unlike the more well-known Demon Core incident that occurred at the Los Alamos laboratory in New Mexico in 1945. Despite this incident, the Americans found a way to achieve artificial criticality, paving the way for the development of the atomic bomb and ultimately securing victory in World War II. The war changed many things. Germany was developing new weapons and technologies during the war, such as tanks and rifles that were highly effective. They also worked on sending secret messages using a machine called Enigma, but the Allies managed to break the code, giving them a significant advantage. Germany was also conducting research on atomic energy thanks to scientists like Otto Hahn. However, the United States advanced more quickly and developed the atomic bomb before Germany. This was crucial for winning the war and reshaped how nations interacted and distributed power worldwide. The war also witnessed the collaboration of major automobile brands in creating tanks and military vehicles. Companies like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Porsche contributed to the development of tanks like the Panzer IV and the Tiger, which became symbols of the war. In the air, cooperation between companies such as Messerschmitt and Junkers led to the creation of fighter planes like the Me-262, the first jet fighter in the world. The war demonstrated the importance of collaboration and sharing knowledge. After the war, many German scientists moved to the United States to work on critical projects such as rocket development and space exploration. This laid the groundwork for the post-war era and the ensuing competition between nations in the space race. Over time, these investigations and developments led to significant advancements in technologies like computing, medicine, energy, and space exploration. These advancements enabled the creation of satellites and the development of new treatments and medications that have improved the lives of many people globally. Additionally, the experience and knowledge gained during the war in building tanks and fighter planes laid the foundation for the development of more advanced and efficient civilian vehicles and aircraft, significantly impacting the transportation and aviation industries worldwide.